Hello, my name is Vincent Tam, and I'm applying for the position of Graphic and Communications Designer at Patagonia. As a part of this video presentation, I'd like to walk through a few pieces of my portfolio that I completed while working towards my MFA. I believe that each does well in showcasing my skills and talents as a designer, as well as why I might be a particularly good fit at your company. I would like to start with the poster series I created as a part of my type experiments class, where the goal of the project was to create a set of 3 posters that reflect the spirit of architecture through the use of 3D typography as a central piece of imagery. I chose to represent a lecture series around the central topic of rooftop architecture and the valuable ways that it can impact the future of sustainability and conservation in the design of buildings. After identifying the appropriate set of subtopics rooftop runoff, rooftop landscapes, and solar rooftops, a cleverly elusive yet sharp and simple set of corresponding words flow, grow, and stow were chosen to signify and encompass each poster. The words were also intended to reflect the elements of water, plant life, and the sun, being the 3 pillars which exist at the core of sustainable living. Each photo was taken within an appropriate rooftop setting to communicate a literal picture of being in an elevated space. In a more figurative sense, the vast backdrop of the sky is used to communicate a sense in which conservation and green design exist as an answer to a bright and open future. The type was formed and created out of bent, thick steel wire and modeled after a condensed sans serif typeface to reflect a geometric form and sense of structural height consistent with the subject matter and theme of architectural design. In keeping with an experimental approach to typography and design, another project that I carried out in the same class involved the creation of an iPad brochure around a given science topic. The goal was to explore the ways in which typography itself can tell its own story, both in its physical representation as well as in a figurative manner. I chose the topic of dendrochronology, or the study of tree ring growth patterns as a method of scientific dating. The paradoxical combination of bold wood type and clean geometric sans serif type were chosen to represent the contrasting relationship between science and nature. Tall vertical columns of body text, varying in height, were utilized to mimic the physical properties of trees. Other more subtle treatments in layout and type were also used. A stacked vertical page numbering system was used to simulate the counting of tree rings themselves. Nonsensically set type was used to mirror the unpredictability of nature, and the playful and purposeful interaction of type and imagery was also applied to relate to the subject matter. This was a project in which I performed a book cover series redesign for a selected author of choice. It is one that I think illustrates further the profound sentiments of wonder, awe, reverence, and respect associated with nature and the great outdoors. A continuous illustration of the entire state of Alaska bridging each of the 3 books was used in part as an overarching element to visually join them as a set, as well as to conceptually communicate the immense and overwhelming vastness of the Yukon wilderness. The elemental properties of watercolor were used to evoke a sense of organicness and nature. In much of the same way, finger-painted and handwritten type were also applied to integrate a certain human component. This was to reflect the theme of man's futile struggle against nature's unforgiving landscape, one that is common among many of Jack London's stories. Finally, I'd like to present a more large-scale project that I created in my type systems class. This was a semester-wide project where we were to choose an existing nonprofit organization and then develop an entirely new brand and identity system from which to design a set of deliverables. The organization I chose was called Stand Up for Kids. As a point to humanize the life and struggle of homeless and at-risk youth, design choices were made to reflect the overarching theme that we all have dreams despite our backgrounds and differences. This central concept was delivered through a fold-out feature within the book design. Each included a front-facing photograph of 2 different people that would then open up from the center to reveal each of their dreams and passions. The idea was to provide an interactive juxtaposition of 2 people who on the surface both have their own dreams and passions, however one also happens to be struggling with homelessness. This, along with the thoughtfully determined set of other design elements, features, and concepts, were extended throughout all deliverables in the project. Core materials used were cardboard, duct tape, and newsprint to support a vernacular that conveyed a certain sense of grittiness and a DIY mentality often associated with homelessness and the city streets. A concept that also congruently aligns with Patagonia's outlook on minimalism and conservation, and the use of salvaged items to, in a sense, make do with what you have. Aesthetically, designs were carried out entirely in black, white, and gray to offer an underlying symbolism in the irony of this being a social issue which many people treat as black and white, when in reality there is much misunderstood gray area. From print and electronic devices to the design of signage and 3D physical spaces, I consider this a project which displays my versatility as a visual communicator and designer. To conclude, I believe that each of these projects highlights in their own unique way the kinds of values surrounding the resourceful approach to design thinking and innovation embraced at Patagonia. I also think that they collectively showcase my skills and abilities as a designer, as well as my mind for visual storytelling and integrated communications to support causes that empower the greater good of humanity, as well as our Earth's environment. I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration, and for the opportunity to share some of my work with you. To see more, you can take a further look into my portfolio, and please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions. I hope to be in contact with you soon.